everyone. This is going to be a solo episode of just myself today. I do want to make a lot more videos where I divulge further into my personal life and my perspectives and experiences so that you'll get to know me better. But this episode, I just thought that I would jump on real quick to discuss an adventure that I had over the weekend while it's still fresh in my brain. So I hope you enjoy me telling you about a hiking experience that I had on Saturday. And it is now Monday. Everything hurts. My body hurts. So you're hearing this in real time while I still feel the pain and can really tell you guys a clear picture of the experience that I had 2 days ago. So I don't know if any of you have heard of the list of highest points around the US, and the highest natural point of Texas is actually called Guadalupe Peak, which is 8,749 feet above sea level. And for the rest of you out there that use the metric system instead of imperial system like only we do in US for some reason, the 8,749 feet equals 2,667 meters. So I hope that gives you an idea of how high this peak truly was and why the elevation really gets to you when you're trying to hike up this dang mountain. So I live in El Paso, Texas, which we have an elevation of, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, I believe it's 3,600 feet. Where I currently live, it's slightly lower than the sea level of the base of this hike that we did over the weekend. And to give you another example, Denver, the Mile High City, it's 5,200 feet? I believe that's about a mile. So El Paso is quite high in elevation, and I don't know if people realize this. We are in a mountainous region, and we're part of the Chihuahuan Desert, which is huge. It expands several states and Mexico and US. So I'm lucky that I have gotten somewhat accustomed to higher elevations living in El Paso, because we are actually quite high in elevation. And I do hear people from other states that have moved that tell me that they have had a hard time adjusting to living here. It's something that they didn't expect. And it could take them a month or two to get used to the oxygen levels and the elevation. So just imagine that, but a lot worse. And where we went hiking, it is called the Guadalupe Mountain Range, which is about it's about 90 miles outside of my city, El Paso, which is 140 kilometers if you want to use that system. So to give you an idea, it took us 2 hours, just under 2 hours, to get from my hometown to this mountain range to go hiking. And if you're someone, I have a couple friends doing this. If you are someone that is working your way through the US National Parks bucket list, then you are definitely going to hit this park at some point, because it is the Guadalupe Mountains National Park. So it is a national park. Luckily, one of my friends that went on the hike had a national park pass that she paid for earlier this year. So we were able to have the whole car be admitted using that pass instead of paying $10 per person. But support your parks, whatever you're doing. If you're paying for a day pass, if you're paying for a yearly admission to the national parks, I highly recommend it, whatever you have to do, because the national parks don't get a lot of funding, unfortunately, from the government. So whatever you can do to support them, always make sure you're honest and pay for your admission when there's just a drop box for your money or a visitor center and you just park there. So don't forget to look around, because I'm sure sometimes we go hiking and we just park somewhere and we just head off the trail, but we forget to pay. So make sure you're doing that to support our city, state, and national parks, because it really takes a lot to maintain these parks if you think about it. I mean, I've never been a ranger, but if you think about it, it's a lot of upkeep to keep the trails clear and safe for everyone to use. and keep the campsite sanitary and all of that. But anyway, that wasn't the point I was trying to get to. So the Guadalupe Peak, it is actually the 14th tallest peak in all of the US. And the highest peak I happen to notice on this list is in Alaska. It's called Denali, and it's another mountain range in Alaska that's about 20,000 feet high. So if you're curious about it. But Guadalupe Peak in Texas is considered number 14 in the whole list. So it's a pretty big deal, I would say. Not something you would do on a typical Tuesday. And you know, me living here for about 20 years, well, less than that, but almost 20 years, this is the first time I've done it. So even for a local that you only live 2 hours away, it was still something quite special to me and quite an accomplishment. And we did run into people from other cities that were hiking there. So I'm guessing it's a popular place that people from other cities, like surrounding nearby Carlsbad, New Mexico. We met hikers from Abilene, Texas, perhaps some of the bigger cities in Texas as well. They will hit up this national park and do this summit because it's a feat. I guess I will tell you some of the stats of our trek, and I had my All Trails app on recording the entire hike. If you are a beginner hiker or an avid hiker, I highly recommend this app. This is just my personal recommendation to you. Ever since my friend recommended me to get it, I've used it every time I've gone hiking, and I haven't been without it. So you can actually hit record before you start the hike, and it'll actually track where you're going according to the trail that they have uploaded onto the app as well, so that you will never get lost. Because sometimes it's hard to interpret those trail markers, and I've totally missed some in the past where I just walk right past it and didn't even realize I had to turn a certain way to get back. So try out the app if you don't already have it, and this is what I used to track this time, and it was able to give me some stats at the end, which if you're a numbers person, you might enjoy. If you are following me on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, I will be uploading some of these pictures on those social media channels so that you can look back at it and look at the experience that I had and all the different sites that I've seen. And I'll try to upload the pictures of the stats at the end as well. And in this YouTube video, if you're just listening to this on a podcast platform, by the way, this is on YouTube also. The channel is called Many Places. No, I'm sorry. Many Faces, Many Places, all one word, no spaces. Or you can just find the link to it under my Facebook or Instagram. There's a link to all of the other websites that you can find where I'm posting. So there should be a link to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And to try to make this video more entertaining, I will be trying to add some of those pictures in there as I speak. I started recording near the parking lot, which from the parking lot to get to the trailhead, it's still a bit of a walk. I'm thinking it's at least 0.2, 0.3 miles. So I kind of started it somewhere in the parking lot while we started walking, and I ended it on the way back before we hit our car as well. So I was able to get a bit of after the trail, but I didn't get the whole thing of at the end of the trail to the parking lot, since that was still quite a walk. But the whole time it said that we walked 8.8 miles, which if you count all the way from the time from the parking lot to the trail and back, it's probably more like 9 miles, I would say. And if you're just doing from the start of the trailhead to the bottom, it's probably 8.5, 8.6 miles. So let's just say 8.5 miles is how long it takes to do this hike. Oh, so 8.8 miles is 14.2 kilometers, which took us 6 hours and 41 minutes, according to my app, is how long we took to do the whole thing. And before we went, everyone else we heard from or reviews we saw had said that it takes about 6 to 8 hours to do this hike. So that's what we had in mind. Okay, the average is 6 to 8 hours. So let's see how long we can do this. And we weren't trying to be in a rush or anything, but since we do live out of town, we wanted to get back in a decent time since this thing takes literally all day to do. And the elevation gain, this was what was most interesting to me. And I'm really glad I had my app to track this. It said that we gained 4,168 feet in elevation, which equates to 1,270 meters. So that's quite a lot of sea level to gain in a day. I was really feeling it. And I didn't really make this connection until after the fact when I came home and I showed my husband, like, oh, look, we gained 4,000 feet. And he goes, oh, well, that must have been why you were out of breath and it was really difficult. And I thought, yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. I mean, just the hike itself was difficult and challenging. And when you add the elevation gain in just under a day that you're gaining 4,000 feet in elevation, you know what? I thought, wow, this really is a big deal. And that's why we were tired. So my husband wasn't there. He was at home taking care of the puppies. And this was more of a girls' trip. So it was me, my friend Knock, and my friend Pam. They will be on the pod soon, I'm sure. So you'll be hearing from them in the future. It was tough. So at the top of this peak, there is the stainless steel pyramid marker, and it's a national marker that marks that it is one of the highest points in the US. So it has 4 sides and it is all steel. And before we went, I know that another friend of mine told me that there's a box under this pyramid somewhere that you can sign your name, which is a summit register. And it's in a metal ammunition box, apparently. And she did tell me it's a little hard to find. But by the time we got up there, I was beside myself that it was just so much that I was exhausted and I totally forgot about this box. So with that said, we did not get to sign our names on this metal ammunition box. And I didn't see anyone else. You know, there were several other hikers up there at the top as well, and I didn't see anyone else signing it. So maybe no one knew about it. But I knew about it. Someone told me about it before I went. This friend of mine, actually, she had done it 3 times. Yeah, I was really surprised. So she told me that she had done it 3 times. It was one of her favorite hikes, and she highly recommends it. And you get beautiful views, like 360 views. And she was right. It was true. And I just totally forgot what she told me about this registry box. So that's the only thing I wish I would have remembered. But at that point, I was just like, okay, let's take a sit. Let's eat something. Let's take our pictures and let's go down. And let's try to beat the storm. Oh yeah, so on the way there, I believe before we headed off to the trail, one of the rangers actually told us that every day for several days now, or for several weeks, there's been a storm rolling in the evening hours. And I was thinking, no, I don't think so. It's a bright, hot Texas day. I don't think so. There's some clouds cover, but it's mostly bright. Sure enough, around, what time was it? Maybe 3, 4 o'clock. This was while we were at the top of the summit when we heard thunder. And this is when all the hikers around us started heading down the mountain because they heard thunder, and it sounded so loud. It was right next to you because we were so high up in the sky, so you could hear the thunder like right next to your ear, and it was the loudest thunder I've ever heard. And I'm not someone who's scared of thunder or lightning, but but it was very loud, and you could really feel like you felt like you belonged to the sky, like you were up there with the clouds, and you can see the storm clouds rolling in near you. It started getting gray all of a sudden, and really you did not expect this because it was a hot, bright, sunny Texas day. Just to give you context, this is September. Okay, so right now we're in September of 2021, which means it's still summer in Texas. It's still hot. A funny thing that my friend Pam said was, she, like, as soon as she heard the thunder, she's like, okay, guys, let's go. Let's run down the mountain. She said, I'm more scared of lightning than getting COVID. So she's like, I'd rather get COVID than be hit by lightning. So let's go. That was hilarious. I thought that was hilarious. By the way, the whole time that we were doing this hike, Pam was running, y'all. She was flying up this mountain like nobody's business. Okay, this girl. So I'm gonna have her come on the podcast so you guys can hear from her personally. But this girl is something else. She and her husband wasn't with us at the time. And if he was, we would have been even more exhausted because he hikes even faster than this lady. So Pam and her husband, they are marathon athletes and triathletes, and they do CrossFit. They're distance runners, swimmers, bike, whatever. They do it all. And apparently, so Knock, our other friend that was with us, Knock and I hike at more of a similar pace to each other. And Knock was telling me that every time she's gone hiking with Pam and Jesse, they run and don't stop to take pictures or anything, and then Knock ends up feeling bad because she feels like they have to wait for her, or they're like already done with the hike and waiting for her by the end of it. So it was true. So it was just Pam with us. It was just me, Knock, and Pam. But Pam really flew through the whole thing. I'm gonna be posting pictures. I was able to get a few pictures of her way ahead of us, tiny. You know, just we saw her up ahead, and there were times where we would go around a switchback and she would just be sitting there like meditating like a Buddha or something. Like she found like a nice rock to sit on, and we walked by and we're like, oh, hey, there you are. She's like, there you guys are. I've just been sitting up here eating a snack. I've been here for like 15 minutes. She doesn't have this accent, by the way. I don't know why I'm doing a Texas accent, but she has a different type of accent. But I don't know. When I pretend to be someone else, this just comes out. Okay, so this is not her voice. At the beginning, I tried to, we tried to kind of keep pace with her. And then I realized that this is like a continual speed for her. Like she will never slow down. This is like her constant. So then we ended up falling back and not being able to catch up with her anymore. We were keeping up at the beginning, like half a mile, okay. But then past that, we're like, okay, you go ahead, girl. Like we're holding you back. She is something else, let me tell you. And very inspirational, and definitely a fitness motivation for me. And so Knock and I got to, we didn't have a choice. We had to pace ourselves so that we don't get, exhausted at the end of it. And we still were, even though we went at like more of an average pace. And even then I felt like this was one of the fastest that I've ever hiked, because I hike for the scenery and for taking photos and enjoying nature and, maybe like contemplate it to myself. I'm not like hiking to speed through something, but I'm really glad Pam was with us actually, because it gave us motivation to kind of like finish this thing in under 8 hours at least, because our expectation was that it would take 6 to 8 hours. So, at least, she gave us motivation to go a little faster than we normally would if it was just Knock and I, because we take our time. But I'm glad she was there. It motivated us to hike the fastest I've ever hiked in my life, apparently. And but I'm happy because we got to do it before the storm rolled in. So back to the storm, we were at the top of this peak, and it started thundering, and we started feeling sprinkles, and then we started heading down the hill. I don't even know where all the other hikers went because there was at least 20 people on the summit with us at the same time, just kind of sitting around resting. Because at the end of it, I promise you, you are going to want to take a rest and have a snack. Bring plenty of snacks if you do this hike. We brought a bunch of protein bars, granola bars, trail mix. We brought almost a gallon of water each. It was kind of like almost 3 liters each at least. So I would definitely recommend bringing a gallon each, especially if you're going in the summer. With all this stuff, we ended up finishing everything. Like I ate almost all my food. We drank almost all our water. So definitely be prepared. But there was like 20 other hikers around us. And then by the time that we were hiking down, they must have all ran down past us because we only saw like 4 more people behind us. And we're like, where did everyone else go? Either they're coming down real slow or they already shot ahead of us and we didn't even notice them. And it's not like we ran into much more of them on our way down. We only ran into a few more people that were still on their way up. So yeah, these people must have flown down, and I thought we were flying down as it is. And the sad part was we did still see some people that were barely trying to go up. So, we still tried to give them some encouragement and whatnot, but it was raining at the time. So I don't know if they ended up committing all the way or if they ended up turning back, because at that point it's kind of dangerous and you don't want to be out exposed when there's thunder and lightning. And one of the hikers told us to turn our phones off to avoid electric, connectivity to lightning. So that's another tip, I guess, if you're hiking or camping and there is thunder and lightning around you, maybe turn all your electronics off. So to protect yourself. But we did I feel like we did fly down. Pam was taking the lead as usual. And I've never flown down a mountain that fast in my life because I'm someone who is pretty fast going up, or at least so I thought before this hike. I consider myself pretty decent, like fitness level, hiking level. I'm not an athlete or anything by that means, but I can handle myself okay in nature activities and hiking. Until this time, it really kicked my butt. And I've never hiked this fast in my life. And I'm someone who is okay going up, but going down, I'm very slow, like a grandma. Like I hold on to the boulders next to me to make sure I don't slip or tumble on a rock. So going down, sometimes I'm on all fours, and I'd rather be safe than sorry. But this time, we didn't have that luxury. We were just running down this mountain. And it got a little slippery at certain points because of the rain, so we were forced to go a bit slower, but it was still pretty fast. It was much faster than like a speed walking pace on flat ground. So it was interesting, to say the least. So, but going back to on the way up, and like Knock and I just took like just minimal pictures. We didn't even take that long of breaks. Every time we took a break, it was like 15 seconds. Okay, keep going. 10 seconds. Okay, keep going. Oh, here's a nice spot for a picture. 2 minutes for pictures, and then keep going. And by the time we got to the top, freaking Pamela, she was taking a nap. Can you believe this? So she was like, well, looking at her watch, and she's like, oh, you guys finally made it. Oh, wait. Should I try to? No, you know what? I'm not even going to try to do her accent. I'm just going to give her a funny voice again. So she's like, you guys finally made it. I've been up here for 2 hours. We're like, are you sure? I think there was something wrong with like the time difference, because there is a time zone jump from El Paso to, this is like Salt Flat, Texas, or Del City, Texas, around there. There was a time difference. So we ended up figuring out that she was over an hour, but not 2. She was like an hour ahead of us. Like, can you imagine that? Like, you start out hiking from the same distance at the same time, and someone beats you to the peak by over an hour. She is very impressive. So she got up there, like, in just under 3 hours to do this. And the average time, it takes you at least 4 hours to get to the top. So she beat it by an hour. She was sitting up there. She told us she found a nice shaded spot under a tree and she took a nap. Like she was asleep for 10 to 15 minutes, like actually asleep. So she was just up there, bless her heart, waiting for us for an hour. And then we finally dragged our little butts out there. And then by the time we got up there, I was like, nobody talk to me. I am beside myself. Let me take myself away from all of this stimulation. I saw that pyramid marker and I did not even care to go close to it until I had sat down, ate another granola bar, and drank some more water to replenish myself. And it was nice. I got a nice little view of the mountains. There was really a lot of different views. I liked it a lot that it had a lot of, I like hikes that have a lot of different terrains and different views. It's been green lately because of all the rain in Texas. So we were fortunate to have seen all this green. There was, oh my goodness, there was wildflowers everywhere. I've never seen it like this in a Texas mountain range. Usually, you know, you have your yucca plants, your agave plants, your little cacti bushes and whatnot. Maybe one or two wildflowers here and there, but we saw daisies. We saw little cute red flowers. I don't know the name. We saw little like lavender colored flowers on the side of the trail and spread throughout the mountains. There was a point where I looked out and it looked like we were at like a European meadow pasture with trees and flowers. It did not look like Texas, y'all. It was beautiful. There was a lot of wildflowers everywhere. I will post some of the pictures in this video as well as on social media so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It was really beautiful. So apparently I didn't realize that I had way more to talk about than I expected about this Guadalupe Peak adventure that I had. So I will have to break this episode up into 2 parts. So make sure you go ahead and listen to the second part as well. If you like the podcast, I would love it if you can leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest at MFMP Pod. And consider supporting the show at patreon.com/MFMP to gain access to exclusive content and bonus perks. And to keep the conversation going, you can tweet me to ask a question or share a comment about what you heard. I would also love to see you post stories to Instagram or Facebook of you listening to the pod or trying any of the activities or recommendations introduced from the Hook You Up segments by my guests or myself. Tag me in your stories or posts at MFMP Pod so I can see and maybe also share along. Until then, stay tuned to hear more from the many faces of many places.